All right, here we are in your lesson tonight. Your lesson is from 1.3. It's variables and expressions. Our North Dakota State standards are applying order of operations like we've been working, simplifying our numeric expressions, but we're also going to be using expressions and equations to represent a situation. Key thing today is writing variable expressions. You should be on page 8 of your notes. If you're on page 8 of your notes, actually, as you turn to the beginning of your notes to the phrase, the vocabulary, algebraic expression, and numeric expression. This is from 1.2 and 1.3. Now, if you also need to look at the book online or if you need to look at your textbook, I am going to put these definitions up in just a minute. You should know at this point what the sum is. You are going to see these words, sum, difference, product, quotient, in today's lesson. You're going to see them in a chart that tells you what operation. But you should be thinking with all of these is that it is an answer to what type of a question. Answer to, and then you're going to tell me the type of problem situation. What is a variable? Well, this is kind of an important one. A variable really is a symbol, usually a letter, and it represents numbers. Now, what I would have you do is right at the very bottom of your notes on the first page of vocab, right below sum and difference, I would like you to add in the word variable. So everyone should have this word variable written right below sum and difference, and you can now fill in the definition. A variable is a symbol, usually a letter, used to represent numbers. The most common variables that you're going to see is X, you might see Y. I'd stay away from O, I'd stay away from S, they look like numbers. Algebraic expression. This is an expression that has numbers, variables, and operations. An example might be that you only have X, just a variable. You could have only a number, 4. You could have an operation, x squared minus 3x plus 2. We have subtraction, addition as our operations, and we have variables and numbers. Algebraic. Sometimes you'll see it called, instead of algebraic, a variable expression. Again, variable and algebraic, same thing. Numbers, variables, operations. We tonight did some evaluation when we got it down to one number solution. So remember, simplifying or evaluating is getting it down to one number solution. If we're talking about the product of a number and a variable, we are usually going to put the 5 times n. We're always going to put the 5 in front. You could use a dot for multiplication. No more using x's. 5n means the same thing, multiplying. So, numerical expression in your notes you're going to fill in. This is still on that first page of your notes, an expression with numbers and operations. So this would be like 2 plus 3, 7 minus a negative 5. To evaluate is to find the value. And hopefully you already have your order of operation in your notes. Now, what are some of the key phrases? This is back on page 8 of your notes. As you're looking at page 8, we're going to fill in below addition all the words that kind of go with it. You're going to see those in a minute on the next page of the flip chart. Subtraction, multiplication, and division. On the chart, I will have you add a few other things to your notes. So we have plus, sum, increase, total, more than, added to. These are our words that are telling us to add. If you see minus, the difference of, decreased by, fewer than, less than, subtracted from. What are some other words that go in subtraction that they didn't put up here? You might also see diminished. So please add that word to under subtraction, diminished. You are also going to see the phrase less. You might see, those seem to be the main ones. Now, I am going to highlight these words. And the main reason I want to highlight these is these phrases right here are really important. And people often get mixed up with them. And what I like to put outside of this, and I might put on my notes is that these numbers will always switch the order. So switch, and I'm going to give you some examples, the order. And it's only for these three that you're looking at. And the key thing is this. If you see 7 less than n, when I talk about switching the order, what I mean is this. We know less than is going to be minus. Switching the order means the n has to come first minus 7. So the 7 comes later. Switch the order. Now, what if you have the phrase just less? 7 less n. You keep it in the exact same order. 7 minus n. So you need to be really careful of these phrases that I kind of highlighted. Okay? Multiplication times the word the product, multiplied by, and the phrase of. The other words you might see is double. If something doubles, we are multiplying by 2. If it's tripling, that's another word that you'll often see. If something is tripled, it is times 3. Divided by, quotient, the word per is a key one with division. Now, again, for multiplication, I'm going to suggest you use a dot or an asterisk, or really even best is a parenthesis for multiplication. Division, you can use the divide sign, or you can write it as a fraction. If I have something like 7 divided by n, I can write that as 7 as a fraction over n. I could also write it with the division. Both ways are going to work. Now, you also have powers and grouping. Powers today, we work with some keywords. You might see squared. Another phrase you might see is cubed. So that's trying to tell us to take it to the second power. Remember, x to the second is squared. X to the third is cubing. What about our grouping symbols? Grouping symbols really are your absolute value, your parentheses, could be a bracket. All of those are types of grouping symbols. So if you saw something like 4 times the sum of 3 and x, we're going to translate it literally. 4 times the sum. When you see that phrase sum and then you see the word and, this is telling you where the addition has to go. So 4 times the sum. When it says times the sum, that means you're taking it times this whole thing, 3 plus x. Now in the next couple days, next week, we'll look at this lesson and we'll use our distributive property to get rid of that parenthesis. So it might say 3 times the difference. If it says 3 times the difference, again, this is trying to tell you of x and 2. It's trying to tell us 3 times, that's here, the difference, putting in subtraction, but it means parenthesis at this point. Right now, on page 9, we're going to do some of these together. So, verbal phrase is a number. What's the algebraic expression? Since it's number, I like to use the variable that starts with number, n. The sum I know is addition of a number n 6. N plus 6. Would I mark it wrong if you told me 6 plus n? No, and our main reason is addition has the commutative property. Addition has the commutative property. It lets me switch the order. The sum of 8 and a number. 8 plus n. Again, could rewrite it. 15 more than. 4 increased by a number increased by 4. I would like you to try those right now in your notes, and I will see those. 2 decreased by a number. That's going to be our subtraction at this point. So 2 decreased by a number n. Cannot switch that order around. A number decreased by 2. Try it, pause it, and then start again. 9 subtracted from. Here's that key phrase, subtracted from. It's kind of like me saying if you have $9 and you subtract it from my 20. I would take 20 and minus 9. Switching the order. So, key note, switch order. What do we mean switch order? 9 doesn't come first, but it's n minus 9. A number subtracted from 9. A number subtracted from, again, what has to come first? 9 in this case minus n. Switch the order. Now, as you look at the rest of these phrases, the less and less than, I would like you to try those. Those ones, we're going to look at the product of 8 and a number, 8n. 8 is going to be called our coefficient. As you are looking at the rest of these, I would like you to try them by looking at your notes and see if you can fill those in. I think most of you are going to be able to do okay. So as you look at those phrases, your homework is going to be a worksheet where you're going to be kind of filling in some of the data. So hopefully this went well. Thanks.